the next item is in the name of Deputy Bobby Aylward, who wishes to discuss the need to address overnight ambulance resources in Kilkenny. Deputy Aylward.
I want to thank you for selecting this very important matter for discussion on our topical issues and its time today. Minister, last week the Kilkenny People newspaper revealed that Kilkenny had just 2 emergency ambulances on duty each night for its population of 100,000 people. This is 1 ambulance to every 50,000 people. The figures which were obtained through Freedom of Information also reveal that total numbers of emergency ambulances available to Kilkenny on day shift duty from Monday to Friday is 4 for each day. However, this just falls to just 2 on Saturdays and Sundays, weekends, when there's more demand on it. This particular point of the strategy needs to be urgently re-examined, as we have a very vibrant nightlife in Kilkenny City at weekends. The bars, clubs, hotels and restaurants are all busy with visitors from outside the county that come for a weekend city break or otherwise. The streets of the city are a busy place at night, and there is always an increased risk of incident or injury occurring, which in turn would increase the demand for ambulance. You will find that the vast majority of people are out to enjoy themselves and will be well behaved, but there is always a risk of incident when people are out late and perhaps drink is taken. The same can be said for any city. There is a valid reason as to why the National Ambulance Service deems it appropriate to reduce ambulance availability at the weekend, when demand for a service could increase dramatically in a short space of time. If there is a valid reason, I would like to hear it. However, if it is down to an oversight in strategy or planning, then it requires urgent re-examination. I would ask that you take a close look at this, Minister. 1 ambulance cannot cater for 50,000 people on a nightly basis over a long-term period, and a daily basis on weekends. It's simply not sustainable. We could potentially be sleepwalking into a scenario whereby on a bad night, someone in an emergency situation in South Kilkenny cannot be reached within a reasonable time frame because the other 2 ambulances are otherwise engaged in the north of the county. This person is then relying on what the HE like to call dynamic dispatchment from Carlow, Water, New Ross and Clonmel, provided the ambulances in these areas are not otherwise engaged or under pressure. This is also important to point out that Kilkenny is a focal point of Ireland's ancient east, and we have a large number of tourists flocking to the county for day trips, particularly at weekends. We are lucky to have a number of stunning attractions around the county as a result of our rich medieval heritage, and the tourism industry is very important in sustaining our bars, traditional pubs, restaurants and other SMEs. It is a high-risk strategy, to say the least, that we have only 2 ambulances available during our busy weekends, and there is a glaring risk of serious damage to our good reputation if a regrettable incident or incidents were to occur. In respect of the day shift on weekdays, we have 4 ambulances available on Monday to Friday. I would be interested to know how this figure compares to the national average for ambulances deployed per capita in the various regions. And you have any figures in respect of that, Minister, we'd be glad to hear them. Again, Minister, I can't emphasise, we have 4 ambulances during the weekday on each day available, but at weekends, when we could have some unfortunate incidents, we have only 2. And I don't think that's good enough for a population of 100,000 people. I think we need more ambulances. This thing of ambulances that are in the region, the other areas, they might be available. I know of one incident, I know this for a fact, where an ambulance that was available in Kilkenny had to go down to Wexford, was called down to Wexford to bring a patient that got sick. Within 500 metres of Wexford Hospital, but because they had no ambulance available in Wexford, they called it from Kilkenny, bring down an ambulance from Kilkenny, they're always down to within 500 metres of the hospital, and bring that patient into Wexford Hospital. This kind of thing is not viable and is not practical. I think you should re-examine the whole thing again.
Thank you, Deputy Aylward. Minister.
Thanks, Deputy. And again, Chair, I'm taking this topical issue on behalf of the Minister, and I apologise he can't be here this afternoon. The National Ambulance Service is committed to providing a quality ambulance service in Kilkenny and indeed throughout the country, both during the daytime and nighttime hours. The National Ambulance Service has advised Minister Harris that the allocation of nighttime ambulances resources is based on activity and demand. It is important to note that the NAS operates on a national and area based as opposed to the local base. While resources are dispatched to calls in Kilkenny areas from the ambulance stations in Kilkenny is the first instant, resources are also deployed from stations in surrounding areas. In this regard, ambulance resources from Carlow, Waterford, New Ross and Clonmel can provide cover in Kilkenny as required and respond to incidents as they arise on their nearest to the indication to the base to where they're going. In recent years, the National Ambulance Service has embarked on a strategy reform programme to reconfigure the management and deliver of pre-hospital emergency care services. The programme aims to deliver a service that is fast and fit for purpose throughout the development of a modern clinical-driven national coordinated scheme supported by technology and data. The reform programme mirrors many of the strategy's changes under in ambulance services internationally as they strive for high performance and effectiveness while coping with continuous increasing demands for the service. The National Ambulance Operations Centre has been established where emergency calls are received and emergency resources are dispatched. The National Ambulance Service utilised the Advanced Medical Priority Dispatch Scheme, which used international standards in triaging and prioritising emergency calls. The scheme ensures that the life-threatening calls receive an immediate and appropriate response, while lower acute calls may have to wait until an emergency resource becomes available. In addition, the National Ambulance Service has developed an intermediate care service to provide low acute hospital transfers, which frees up the emergency ambulance for more urgent calls. A permanent emergency aeromedic support service has been established to provide a more timely response to patients in rural Ireland, in rural areas. The ambulance reform programme is taking place against the backdrop of a HIQA review of ambulance services, which was published in the late 2014, and the NASH capacity review, which was published last year. The capital review remains overall ambulance resources levels and distribution against demand and activities. In implementing of the recommendations of the capital review, capacity review will require a multi-annual programme of phased investment in ambulance manpower, vehicles and technology. 7.2 million additional funding was provided in 2016 for the NAS, including 2 million in development funding. In 2017, an additional sum of 3.6 million was available, which included 1 million to fund new developments. Minister Harris can confirm that additional funding will be made available for continued development of the National Ambulance Service in 2018, and this will be set out in the National Service Plan for 2018. The allocation of additional funding by the HSE per Pacific service developing around the country must wait the finalisation of the National Service Plan, and I assure the House that this process is currently underway. And I'll come back to some of the issues.
Deputy Aylward.
Minister, we can use all the HSE buzzwords we like. We can say that resources are dynamically deployed, or their handlers are dispatched on the nearest available to incident basis and not a county border basis. But when you peel back the Spain and the ratio of ambulances to population size, it is very, very concerning. The idea of Roman ambulances and resources can only work if there is a sufficient complement of ambulances to begin with. We cannot subject people to a lottery of Roman resources as if the ambulances are constantly static and can be at the scene of an accident or an incident anywhere in the country at a moment's notice. This is what the HSE calls dynamic language suggests, but the reality is that current strategy is simply not sustainable. If we are unfortunate enough to have a high number of emergency situations occurring, either simultaneously or within a close time frame to one another, this strategy will unravel it, and faster than you can dial 911. I raise this public safety issue against the backdrop of our continuous fight for 24/7 cardiac care for a population in excess of 500,000 people across the South East. The idea was that we expect critically ill patients to present to University Hospital Water outside on Mondays and Fridays, 5 a.m, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to travel to Cork University Hospital is not workable. It is simply not possible to do this in a fast enough way to maintain patient safety. It can take close to 2 hours to travel from South Kilkenny to Cork University Hospital. This journey takes far too long and puts the lives of patients at risk. We have a mobile cath lab which is welcome assistance, but I am concerned that this will increase pressure on the existing cardiac service for people in the South East. Basically, there will be more people having diagnosed more quickly, but the current laboratory will have limited extra capacity to actually carry out follow-up procedures, which result from this additional angiograms. It is projected that 30% of patients would require additional procedures, while it is anticipated that a total of 1,500 diagnostic procedures could be carried out in the mobile lab annually. This would result in an additional 450 extra people being added to the waiting list for cardiac procedures at the existing cath lab at Waterford Hospital each year, with only 500,000 additional funding having been allocated. Will the Minister increase this funding allocation? The reality of the current situation in Kilkenny is no emergency cardiac care service and one ambulance cannot care for 50,000 people. That's my original point. One ambulance cannot care for 50,000 people, and it's an emergency only waiting to happen. And I think we should go back and look at the county basis again, and more ambulances available on a county basis. Thank you, Deputy Minister. To conclude, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And again, just to ensure the Deputy that I have taken some of the notes of the concerns he's raised and regarding the population in Kilkenny, over 100,000. Deputy, I suppose nobody can predict how many amount of emergencies is going to be in any area on any time, and it is down to the emergency services to do the best they can at the time permitted. And with the number of ambulances that are provided within Kilkenny, I don't know who made that decision. I'd imagine it was made by the National Ambulance Service. I will bring your concerns back to the Minister, but also to respond to the fact that over 90% of non-emergency patients are taken by the intermediate care services during daytime and night time. That's freeing up ambulances for the real emergency services. But I will bring your concerns back, and I will outline, and I have outlined here, the number of ambulances that are on from Monday to Friday and Saturday, Sunday. And for whatever reason, the number of ambulances and night time go downwards, I have no idea. So I will ask the Minister to address it personally herself.